Okay, when we last left off, we were setting up our logo animation reveal project. Let's go ahead and finish that up. So we're still working with setting up all our elements. And what we're going to do now is finish getting everything set up. We're just about done. So I want to line up all the text. So I'm going to select all those layers of text, and I'm going to center them. No, let's make them left justified. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. And then I think I want them to be evenly distributed between the three layers there. And I'm going to arrow key them over a little bit like that. And I'm going to arrow key the logo over a little bit more. And so I'm figuring out where I want it to go when it's done. And so now I've got everything set up and I'm ready to start my animation. So I'm going to do it in sections. So first I'm going to animate the four photographs coming on screen and the vertical and horizontal line being pasted down. Then I'm going to animate the white shape layer fading in, and then I'm going to animate the text and the logo. So I've got everything ready to get started. So I'm going to turn off peace of mind, affordability, reliability, the logo, the shape layer, the vertical, the horizontal line. Actually, let's leave the vertical and horizontal line on. That'll help. But we're not going to animate those. And what I want to do, let's name that last layer. That's the businessman. Enter. Let's name that. Let's say biz. Okay. So now I'm going to animate each one of these layers. I'm going to have it take place over a second. So I want them to end up where they are. So I'm going to drag this out to a second, and I'm going to open up the properties for the transform properties for the teacher. And I'm going to set two keyframes, position and opacity. So that's where I want it to end up. Now I'm going to drag this to the beginning and I'm going to animate it off the screen. So I'm going to have it drop in. So I'm going to slide it off screen. And I'm going to set its opacity to 0. So now that's going to slide in like so. Okay. And I'll come back and I'm going to come back and add, actually let's do it now. I'm going to add motion blur. I'm going to select all four of those keyframes. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to keyframe assistant and add my easy ease. I'm going to go to my graph editor and I'm going to grab those keyframes, select those keyframes down there. And I'm going to pinch them in so I get that kind of a little bit of a punch to the animation. And so now it's going to slide in with a little bit of agency. Okay, so the first time you play it through, it's just, there we go. So that looks pretty good. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go up and do the mom and child. And once again, same thing. I'm starting on the keyframe. I'm starting at 1 second, and I'm going to set the opacity and the position there. And then I'm going to go to the first frame. And I want this to slide on from the right. So I'm going to slide it off the screen. And I'm going to set its opacity to 0. And it's going to slide in like so. Okay. So now that I've set that in, I'm going to select those keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant, add my easy ease, go up, turn on my graph editor, and I'm looking at the speed graph. I'm going to select those keyframes at the bottom there and punch that up by pulling those in. That's going to give it a little oomph. Okay. And then I want to turn on, let's close that. I'm going to turn on its motion blur. Let's go into the fireman, same kind of thing. Start on the frame where I want it to end, all right? So I know exactly where it's going to end up. I'm going to set two keyframes, position and opacity, then drag it to frame one. And this one's going to slide up. I'll go to the magnification and set that to 50% so I can see it slide up. And I'm going to go to position and drag that, oops, wrong one. Second one, drag that down off screen. I could type in a numeric, but I can also just, I could click and drag, but I can also just enter in the numeric here by just clicking and dragging. So that's off screen. And then also I'm going to set the opacity to 0. Then I'm going to clean up the animation. Oh, so we didn't set an initial keyframe. Let's start over. All right, so I'm going to go back, set that initial keyframe. Okay, now I'm going to drag it to the beginning. And it should record my keyframe. There we go. And set the opacity. And now I'm going to select those 4 keyframes, trap select, right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. Open up my speed graph editor, grab those keyframes down here at the bottom. I'm just grabbing these handles here and I'm pulling them inwards. I'm just grabbing these handles and pulling them inwards. And what that does is that gives the animation a little influence, a little prominence, a little, and so now I'm going to collapse that. Let's do the businessman. So I'm going to go to 1 second. And I'm going to set the keyframe for position and opacity once again. And I'm going to have this slide in from the left. I'm going to go to the first keyframe. And I want to slide it off. Stage left. Oh, that's anchor point. I'm messing up. Grab the wrong keyframe. There we go. I was wondering why it was sliding so weird. There we go. We're going to slide this off. Position here. So I have that off screen and then I'm going to fade it out. I'm going to select all 4 of those keyframes. I'm going to right click. Go to keyframe assistant. Choose easy ease. Turn on my motion graph editor. Select those motion graphs and pinch it inwards like this. And let's play what we have so far. All right, let's try it again. I'm going to restrict the timeline to just the area that we're animating so we can play it a few times. Nice. Okay. So now let's go to, that's 1 second. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to, let's go to 20 frames after. So 20 frames after 1 second. Let's expand this here. And let's go up to the shape layer. And I'm going to turn that shape layer on at 20 frames. And I'm going to animate it from 20 frames after, let's set it to, let's see here. There's 1 second. Let's set it to 15. That's halfway between there. And then we're going to fade it over to 2 seconds. So here's my shape layer. And I'm going to fade this in. So I'm going to go to transform. And I want the opacity to be 100% at this point. And then I'm going to go to the keyframe at in between 1 second and 2 seconds, 15 frames there. And I'm going to set the opacity to 0. So now I have something like this. Okay. So that's the first part of our animation. Let's stop here and then we'll conclude it. And the next step will be animating the 3 lines of text and the logo. Let's play that one more time. All right, stop there, come back, and we'll finish our animation.